everyone, and welcome to this edition of FTT Chats. I'm Lisa Moyle, Director of Strategy at VC Innovations, and today I'm really delighted to be joined by Lisa Violet. She's Chief Auditor at Varo Money. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Lisa.
Great to have you. I know that you've had a busy week with some exciting news, but I thought we'd kick off our chat with you telling us a little bit about you and your role at Varo Money.
Absolutely. So Lisa Violet, the Chief Auditor of Varo, and a little bit about me. I've been a career banker for about 20 years, have done many aspects of it, from originally being a commercial lender to the tech sector, and then segueing into operations, risk management, and audit. And the underpinning of that has always consistently been working on innovation. And certainly a big part of the crisis of 2008, there was incredible amount of transformation in the banking sector in terms of capital reform and also consolidation. And I have been from a $1 trillion bank to a super regional bank owned by a foreign parent to helping to turn around a community bank. And lastly, had gone into basically the governmental sector with one of the liquidity bankers banks. So really got to see the full spectrum of banking. I had also pivoted for about 3.5 years into the technology sector because what I had been seeing over the course of about 5 or 6 years was definitely banks weren't becoming banks anymore. They were becoming technology. Everybody, every type of industry is becoming a tech company that's offering a certain product. So I had intentionally gone into the tech sector to a service provider to really understand it from that end. So I find myself now at Varo, which we have some exciting news to share about that, but it's been like coming home full circle to a fintech, which is both technology and a finance player. And that's basically my career. And it's really been kind of really augmented by what Varo is about in this whole fintech ecosystem.
That's a great overview, Lisa, and you certainly have had a broad-ranging career across a number of different areas in financial services, and as you said, technology. And I'd love to get your thoughts, and you started touching on it a bit. What has, in your view, been some of the impact of fintech on the financial services sector?
I think it's been very big, and I think we all impact each other. So it's not like one replacing the other, it's an ecosystem. And the way I look at it, it's like the ocean, right? You don't replace the ocean, new bodies of water come into that ocean, and then we all come together. And I think what fintech has done, there is the infrastructure side of fintech, and then there is the consumer side of fintech. And there will also be the regulatory side of fintech. But I think the impact, in summary, on the traditional sector is helping with innovation and those that did not want to have to. And it's also helped the fintech players as well understand the incumbents who have market share. And it's not about just saying, I'm a new entrant and here I'm here, because we're talking about people's money and we're talking about the stability of the financial system as well. So I think, the advent of fintech is definitely on the infrastructure side, really brought new tools to help solve problems for consumers. And I think on the consumer fintech side, we basically have been the challengers to offer something different. But at the same time, we're all benefiting as an industry, both the legacy players and the new upstarts.
Thanks for that, Lisa. And turning for a moment, picking up on some of what you said, but thinking about the current crisis that we find ourselves in, a pandemic, which has obviously put most of us at home working, where possible and not going into financial services institutions. How has that impacted the way that you reach your customers, serve your customers? And also, do you think that it has nudged perhaps, people who may have been digitally averse into your ecosystem?
Necessity is always the mother of invention. And COVID-19 globally has shown us that we don't necessarily need to go into the branch anymore, the physical branch. We can go into the virtual branch on our cell phone, on the computer. and also the option to go back into that physical branch as well. But I think the nudge really has been, offering that digital ecosystem to the consumer. And also the cost of that. In America, about 25% of the population really lives paycheck to paycheck. The average millennia is said to have no more than $400 for an emergency fund. We were already in that going into COVID-19. Now there are more people that have been more or less left behind. And I think what this is going to impact both incumbent players as well as the fintech players is a low-cost offering that allows people to build financial resiliency and wealth. And that is, I think, the biggest impact. I bring it really back to the consumer, not necessarily about working from home and, what innovations can we have with digital delivery. I really think if we reorient ourselves around the customer, and we have a lot of new customers in the system who were not served by traditional banks, where even perhaps the challenger banks had maybe one or two use cases that they were trying to solve. I think all of us collectively have said, what is it back to the consumer and how can we give them traditional banking services, savings, payments, and at a place where we're not taking more money out of their pocket. The average American spends $108 on bank charges. And for a lot of people affected by unemployment with COVID, that's a lot of money. Particularly when you compare that against the average millennia doesn't have more than $400 of emergency funds going into this crisis. That's a lot of money. And I truly think we're going to see the other side of COVID, maybe a year, 2 years from now, a lot of really clever value add solutions to consumers. And collectively, we've got to change the banking business models where we make our money from charging a lot of customers things that are not giving them value. And I think those are the two biggest things.
Yeah, and I think that will certainly resonate with a lot of consumers now. And as you said, the challenges and the challenging situation that many of them find themselves in. So continuing on the subject of being a bank, I know that Varo Money has some very exciting news this week. We'd love to hear from you about what you think it means to be the first fintech in the US to be awarded with a banking charter and how that changes your future landscape and strategic planning.
No doubt about it, Lisa. This is a watershed moment. This is history making. All of us on the team that have helped with this charter, the regulators that have had to innovate themselves, the investors, this is a big deal. And with a badge of pride, all of us who've been part of the journey of VAR becoming basically United States' first ever consumer all digital nationally chartered bank. That sounds like a mouthful, and it is. We are the first consumer bank in the US to get that national charter. And we have come in, we have broken through into the mainstream with a business model that is all digital and is offering to the consumer solutions that are not going to cost them a lot. And I think when you're the first, you lead by example. Our brand is demonstrating change. And others will follow. Others will, because we have kind of broken the mold. And this is all very good. Others will follow. We will have more players in the market offering innovation. And we get to say we were the first to do this. And the amount of calls and outreach we have gotten from friends, colleagues, competitors, everybody really celebrating this success. And I do want to give a call out to the regulators as well, because they had to stick their neck out in, giving that stamp of approval for the very first. And innovation in the regulatory sector. And I think we've seen it in England, in Singapore, in India, a lot of regulatory innovation. And the United States is a very big market, a very stable banking market. And so the symbol of Varo getting that charter with the OCC, with obviously the FDIC providing the insurance, and then the Federal Reserve, because you have to have a holding company, also giving that stamp of approval, just the interagency collaboration. This is the work of a big collective, a 3-year journey. And the company has raised over $400 million. So you can just calculate the cost and the time and the collaboration. It's a big moment for us. And I thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. And I think, you touched on there, it sounds like you think this will open the gateway or the pathway to future digital institutions looking to get that same banking charter.
I think so. Transformation, you have to do it from within. There comes a point where the non-banks are too systemic not to support in the bringing into the fold of the ecosystem. 2008 crisis was credit driven. The crisis we have now with COVID is mass economy, right? And people are going to look for solutions for their financial well-being. And if they're not getting it with traditional banks, the ones that don't pivot, they're going to go elsewhere. But the regulatory system is going to have banks and non-banks. Ultimately, we're all in this together. So I do think there's going to be others that follow, but the moat is quite deep and wide. It is not easy getting this charter. The bar is very high. Also in the United States, one of your other sessions, you had somebody from a credit union talk about that. Our ecosystem in the United States is different than the United Kingdom, Europe, Southeast Asia. And what we have are choices in terms of multiple regulatory agencies. You can go after charters at a state level, at a national level. So not everybody may necessarily pursue the national charter because it is a deep moat, but for them, it may work out to follow using a state charter. But the key message is here, this now has been done. Varo has proven that a challenger bank can come in and meet the standard for safety and soundness. And, for us from this point on, what does this mean for us? Varo will grow within the chartered ecosystem. We've got the insurance backing with the FDIC. And our brand is going to be trust, right? That is our brand ultimately. Trust us with your financial well-being. Trust that we're going to run this bank to the standard that the US regulators have asked. And whether you are a bank or non-bank, we all have to work to that standard because we're systemically important. And I think for Varo, our numbers have shown that with the crisis and also us with the charter, that there is definitely demand out there. We've had period over period acquisition of accounts. We have about now 2 million savings and checking accounts. Growth has been, double digit, over 100%, 200% growth. So, we expect that to continue, that traction to continue.
Thanks. So that was a great overview. And I like that description of not just the diversity of institutions across the US, but also the diversity of regulatory options in a sense. So congratulations again to you and the team. I think it's fantastic and can really show the way for other organizations. So I look forward to you joining us on the 9th of September for FTT Virtual North America and continuing the conversation around Varo Money, which is now Varo Bank. And thank you again for joining us today.
You're welcome, Lisa. Take care.